Hey guys, this is Haru Miyagi. I just want to show you the breakout methodology and just back test the pound dollar on the 4-hour chart using Magic. Today's date is the June 29th, 2014, 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. What we're doing is back testing. We can't back test this system because it's actually not fully automatic. But I'm going to draw trend lines here and look for breaks. It's We're all the way back here at December 2019 or 2009, December 21st. So December 21st of 2009 is where we're starting from, and we're looking at the 4-hour chart. So I'm looking at every single trendline break for an entry and either take profit at the origination point or even looking for a cross of a trend line to exit. So here we have about 100 pips out of this trade. So let's start by adding 100 pips. So 100 pips on that trade, and I'm just taking trendline breaks. Okay, so here's a trendline break, and let's say we take it, get out of the market on this trendline break here. So your entry is right here, trendline break right there, about 292, 292. And so when you exited that trade right here to here, I'm looking to sell this off. So I could look for a trend line break on this trend line here. So I'm holding on to this position here, and I could have another trend line here for another breakout trade. So I would add a position. Okay, so from this entry here, we could probably exit until it crosses this trend line here, which it doesn't cross for a while because it's trending. Let me squeeze a chart so we can get out. So let's say that we get out right there, which is over 1,000 and 1,187. 1,000. Let's see here. So 1,132. Okay. So we got in there, and then we also got in here. So that was another trade for about 1,000 more pips. 1,043. Okay, and this thing keeps on dropping here, but we're just going to use trend lines here. So you can see here, let me zoom back in. So we actually carried that trade for quite some time. So there was another trend line here that we could look for sell back down to that low that we could have crossed. Okay, so that's about another 500 points. So plus 500 points. And let's say that we're looking for a buy, like right here, there could have been a buy opportunity here back to the origination of the trend line or up to this resistance area here, or simply a cross of a trend line. So let's actually say we took a break here, entry right there, stop loss behind this trend line here, and taking the other side. So enter there, got out there, which is 82 pips. So plus 82. And we could have sold off and looked for a cross of this trend line here for an entry and exit. So here we could have got out, entered there, got out right here, 235. So plus 235. And so we took the break of this trend line, right? So there was a big trend line there, there was an entry there, stop loss down there. Took this up until we broke another trend line. Okay, so we have this trend line here. So that's about 250 pips. Okay, we kind of want to consider like all the trend lines as possible. So right here, we probably lost on this trade, just considering losses. So let's say we lost like 130 pips on that one. So minus 130. Okay, and we have another trend line from this point and this point that we take, and you can see that we could have carried it for quite some time if we had my stop loss right there. Let this thing run, and then just trend line right here too. So as far as exit from this trade, out, we could look for this trend line right here as our exit strategy. Okay, so we could have held on and then looked for another entry right here, or simply just got out right here in the reversal. So from this point to this point, it's about 649 pips. 649 pips. From here to the cross of the trend line would have been 380 pips. So plus 380 pips. So the break of the trend line, so we're looking for another exit strategy, which is right here. Let's see that we're just taking this trade here to here. So that was like 94 pips. Okay, we could have taken the other side on this side here and look for the break of this trend line to get in and carry it upwards until we cross another trend line, which is right here. Okay, so entry right here on the break, exit when we cross the trend line right there, which is about 480 pips, plus 480 pips. Okay, and then if you sold on that candle right here, you might have lost on this trade. So let's say that you lost, roughly 160 pips. So minus 160. And let's say you got in on the break of this trend line here to carry the upward swing, and then looked for, let's get rid of that line, cross of this trend line right here, or even right here. Okay, so it would be climbing up, and then you'd see that swing low, creating a higher low. So enter right here, exit, or you could have got another trade in there like this break of this trend line. So one trend line from here to here would have been 790. Let's see here, I need to get rid of that. So 100. Okay, we'll have to do the math again because I actually messed up on the calculator. But you get my point here. I mean, you probably had, I was up over 3,000 pips. Okay, so let me do the math here and just show you the calculator in front of your eyes so you really see me putting the numbers in. Okay, so like I said, we want to incorporate all the winning and losing trades. So the trade that we got in from here to here was about 120 points, so 120. From here to here was about 279 points, 279 pips. Okay, and then this trade we took it all the way down. I mean, this would be a very far trade to get out about 1155. So 1155. What happened was I actually clicked times, and so the number would have been way off. So that's the plus sign right there. Okay. And then here, that was the entry point to get out right here, which was about 970 pips. So 970 pips. Break of this trend line to get out another cross of a trend line like that, so that'd be 588 pips. Okay, so we took the break of this trend line up to the break of that trend line, so that's about 80 pips. And then cross this trend line to take it all the way to the cross of this trend line, so that was entry exit right there, about 435 pips. Okay, and then when it crossed this trend line, I think our stop loss is right there. Wouldn't have got out until right here, or you could have got out right on this area. Let's say we got out right here across of this trend line. which is about 809 pips. Uh, 90 pips, sorry. 890 pips. So right there, also right there. This was all the way down here, so 760 pips plus. Okay, and we're just taking trend lines. So here it goes down, breaks this trend line, so we're gonna get in here, get out right around here. So 370 pips. Okay, and then once it crosses this trend line, we're looking for the break of that trend line. So enter right there, exit right there, 80 pips. Broke this trend line to go on the upward trend line as our exit. We had this line, as you remember. So that was the entry. Exit was right there at 504 pips. Okay, and then this trade we would have probably lost depending on how we managed it, which was about negative, so minus 160. Okay, so we take this trade on this side to take it all the way to the cross of this trend line here, which is about 630 pips. Okay, so from this point down we actually have a trend line like this. We might have got out early, or we could have done it like this. Got out right around here. So enter right there, exit right here. That'd be 340 pips. Okay, and then if you took a buy here, you might have lost here. So let's say that you got in here and lost 170 pips. Okay, and then there was another trend line like this, just a more steeper trend line here. So let's say that we took the break here and we got out on the cross of another trend line. Okay, so enter right here, exit right there, about 271 pips. Okay, well, just to let you know, I mean, and then you could have took this trade and then maybe lost on this trade to be realistic. Let's see here. Let's say you lost 140 pips. Okay, and this is actually up to August. Let's see here if we can find a year. Let's try to get a whole year's worth. Okay, and then so we lost on that trade, and so there's another trade right here. We have across to this trend line for the entry, and then get out on. Let's go with the whole year to get out. So you could have actually had your trend line like this, or you could have steepened it up after the market started to make its way. So here to here, which is 390 pips. Okay, and then it crosses the trend line as your entry. Could have got stopped out either on the break of this trend line, or even keep on holding it until it breaks this trend line here. So we have a two trendy. So we have one right here, entry on the break of that trend line as well as this trend line. Okay, so from this position down to here, which is about 570 pips. Okay, and then we entered right here another 470 pips. And then from here to here is 291 pips. Okay, and if you entered there, let's see if we can go to the next year for our results. So let's say we draw a trend line like this, and we entered right here as our entry, and got out right here. So right here to here is about 170. And let's say you got in here and you got lost, 113. Okay, and then you might have readjusted this trend line later on to take this break and trade based on getting out of the trend line like so. So enter there, exit right there at 300 pips. Okay, and then re-entering, you might have lost on the trade depending on where your stop loss was. Let's say that you decided to take this trend line instead to get in. So we lost on one trade. Let's say that we lost 160. And then we take this trade all the way up. Okay, let's actually say that we decide to use this trend line here as our exit. So right here all the way up to here, 509 pips. Oh, this is actually January. Okay, so we want to be right there. We don't want to include this yet because that's December. Okay, so that's a whole year of testing. So if you were to take every single trendline break on the 4-hour standpoint, that's 8,090 or 8,940 pips. Okay, so if you were trading with one standard lot, just with this currency pair, so let's times it by 10, would equal $89,400. Okay, that just kind of just shows you the power of Magic and what it can do for you. Alright guys, take care.